Deputy Inspector William Reed.
Correct.
And we're still waiting for Inspector Murphy, but you're the lieutenant from Deputy Inspector's Division, Lieutenant Coyle. The floor is yours, Deputy Inspector. Inspector.
Well, Deputy Inspector. But
Deputy Inspector.
So what do you want to know? Which precinct? I'm from the 2nd precinct. I've been in the 2nd precinct for about 6 months. I got over 30 years in the police department. Spent a lot of time in the 1st precinct, 3rd precinct, Range Bureau, Pistol Licensing Bureau, Internal Affairs Bureau, and I guess I wasn't had all the success there, so they sent me to the 2nd precinct. So we'll see how that works out. But so far, so good. I don't know how many people here from the 2nd, from the 4th precinct. How about from the 2nd?
That's on Park Avenue.
Well, okay.
I have a lot of friends in the 2nd. I'll make sure they can carry over there.
There's a couple of topical things. If you have anything specifically you'd like to ask, by all means, feel free. But I guess the most topical thing is that there have been a rash of residential burglaries in Dix Hills, Commack, Commack, Northport area. It's real unfortunate, but we have been really dedicating not only our patrol officers, but our plainclothes guys and detectives, and some of the specialized commands committed to trying to find the burglars. And with a little bit of luck and a whole lot of investigative work, we arrested 3 people last week on, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday that are responsible for quite a few residential burglaries. I hope nobody here was a victim of that. If you are, I guess a little bit of solve to know that we made an arrest.
Can you give us more background in terms of what time of day and
Mostly day and night. A little bit surprising to us that a very dominant time period was like 4:30 in the afternoon until 7:30. It's kind of surprising. That's really not the optimum burglary time, since there's a sense that most people are home at dinner time. So that was very unusual for us.
Did they go into any homes with people home?
Yes, but they got scared. They were scared away. I guess they sometimes just opening up the unlocked front door or unlocked rear door, or kicking in the door, climbing through windows. These 3 particular people that were arrested last week are all heroin addicts. No surprise there. The heroin addiction and the need for more money to buy more heroin is driving an awful lot of the crime, not only the residential burglaries and commercial burglaries, but that's from your car and shoplifting. I mean, it's unfortunate, but when you're a heroin addict, you do whatever you need to do for money.
When you arrest these, is there any follow through on where they get the heroin from?
Well, yes and no. We do know some of their suppliers because actually we were surveilling them for a while, and the first arrest was made right at the time he was making a heroin deal. Unfortunately, it seems, I don't have statistics, but it seems that heroin use is on the rise, which accounts for the rise in residential burglaries. But again, having said that, the real good news is that we made an arrest, and at least those 3 will certainly be out of commission for quite a while. Yes, sir.
Were any of those 3 armed? Did they have weapons?
No.
Are these break-ins to houses, or are these break-ins to cars?
Well, these 3 particular individuals were doing everything, but the biggest concern is the residential burglaries. If you're interested in taking precautions, I would suggest maybe you Google, burglary prevention or target hardening. That's a term we use. Target hardening. That's a term we use to make it more difficult for somebody to victimize you or your house. that's above and beyond simply locking doors. It's, alarm systems, additional security features.
So one of the ladies asked about a neighborhood watch, and I'll get her number and give it to Sergeant Fires.
Yeah, that's been picking up also.
They'll also do hardening for you. They'll come and do a survey of your house and take a look at your locks on your doors and the lighting you have on your home, and they'll make recommendations of things you can do.
Who does that?
Who is that?
The Coke unit, which has just been reorganized, now has a community liaison officer who will be happy to come out and do that for you.
Is it the Coke unit just in the second precinct or all Coke units?
All Coke units.
All Coke?
Yeah. I'm glad the lieutenant mentioned that. There is a realignment with COPE, and I know COPE is a real big deal for a lot of people. It's a big deal for us, and we just had some reorganization on that. We have to explain that. But ma'am, you had a question?
No. Could you speak a little louder, please? This lady's having trouble hearing. Thank you.
Sure. Before I answer your question there, let me cover a little bit of the burglary prevention. I guess first and foremost, I can speak until I'm blue in the face, but locking your doors and windows is like number one. A lot of people don't do that. But you want to create the appearance that your house is occupied. At night you want to leave lights on. You want to have timers, leave a radio on or TV on. I know it's kind of contrary to what we've all been taught to save electricity, but leaving lights on with timers is a big deal. Motion detector lights outside is very good. Alarms, deadbolts. A dog is great. That's the best. The bigger, the better. A real big dog. Two big dogs. That works. Most assuredly, that works. There's all these considerations that you can utilize to protect yourself from burglaries. And I'll just carry that thought a little bit more. Should you be victimized in a burglary? There are after burglary events that you would go through, like insurance and stuff like that. So if you have valuables, I would strongly suggest you photograph your valuables if you have unique pieces. That could possibly help in the recovery of these items or help you in your insurance claim. So these are all universal precautions that everybody should take. And speaking of universal precautions, I'll say what some people don't like to hear, but the simple fact of the matter is that a lot of people are victimized by family members, whether it's immediate family, a little bit of extended family, grandchildren.
Because they're addicted.
Yes. The simple fact of the matter is your odds of being victimized by a family member are probably greater than being victimized by a stranger. So employ universal precautions, secure all your valuable stuff. And don't leave all your jewelry in the place that every burglar goes to, which is right in your bedroom. They ransack, your dresser drawers and your jewelry box. If you have anything really valuable, people don't wear all their very valuable stuff every day. Secrete that in a different part of the house. If you have a safe deposit box in the bank, you'd be so much better off doing that should you be burglarized. So, lock your car. You leave items visible in the car. It really doesn't take more than a few seconds to break a window, take whatever's in there out. People leave their iPhones in there, laptops, cameras, anything visible. You're opening up yourself to victimization. So, Inspector Murphy from the 4th Precinct is here. So for the 4th Precinct folks,
We're represented.
I was at the wrong Commack library, I thought.
yeah, question?
Well, we had an incident like that in my church. A woman kept a purse in the back seat of her car in full view and was filled with old bank statements, totally worthless, but the thief didn't know that, broke her window and took her purse. And I imagine caused quite a bit of damage to the car. So as you said, the obvious things, if you're looking for quick cash, don't set yourself up.
You really have to be careful. You can't leave anything of valuable or perceived value visible in your car. It doesn't take much to break a window and, leave.
It's getting harder and harder to steal cars because the ignition is about impossible to hotwire now with computer chips.
One of the things we have very often in our precincts these days is 2 or 3 times a day we get a call of attempted phone scams. And I'm used to hearing about this, and my sister's mother-in-law, an 83-year-old woman, sent $5,000 to somebody in Arizona the other day because she got a call of a girl crying hysterically saying, "Grandma, please send money," and she hung up the phone, "Don't tell my parents." And this is a woman who knows I'm a police officer, she's heard me tell stories before. It can happen to anybody, and you should tell everybody that. It's usually if someone's involved in a car accident, or someone's been arrested, and you have to wire money and don't tell anybody. So that's very likely to happen to somebody you know. If you can tell anybody about that, tell them.
That happened to me, actually. I got a phone call, about 2 years ago now. Debbie knows, and probably Bruce, from a very well-spoken man saying that my grandson that lived, he lived in Italy, and that he was arrested in Mexico. And just about maybe a month before that, his mother had told me that he was going to Mexico for whatever. I went, it was like amazing. They had his name. Well, of course, I also fed into it. Because he said, "Hello, Della, your grandson in Mexico." And the first one I thought of was Simone. So I go, "Simone?" So my kids afterwards said, after I went over everything, but he wanted me to send money. Oh, it was a big, long conversation. Joe wasn't at home, and he's retired police. So I'm thinking, I can't do this without letting Joe know. So I said, that was how the very end happened. I said, when my husband comes home, I'll talk to him about it. And he said he'd call me back. He never called me back. But I went to the 4th precinct. We both went over in Hop Hop, and we reported the whole thing. But it was really amazing, the information they had on family, because we have a family that kind of go from America, all over the United States, to Ireland, to Germany, and to Italy, and to Prague.
Well, you should tell as many people as you can. Yours is a happy ending.
But that was a happy ending, because...
It's not very hard for people who want to get information on you and your family. There's all sorts of publicly available databases, or even, the Facebook entries and all this other stuff. People can get a lot of information on you. The bottom line is, somebody's calling you up looking for money, hang up. Most people want to be pleasant, they want to be nice. Screw that! Hang up! You don't want to be a nice victim. You don't want to be a victim at all. You just hang up.
But when they mention a family member, and it's one of your grandchildren or one of your children, you know that you're going to go to the very...
But if a stranger is calling you up, you have ways...
He said he was an attorney. He was a...
Right. They can say all sorts of things. A stranger's calling you up looking for money, there's options for you. Hang up, or make direct contact with the person who supposedly needs your assistance. There's too many scams out there. We can't possibly describe them all. If somebody's calling you up looking for money, hang up. I include your grandchildren too. Hang up. Because that happens. The grandchildren, they're behind stuff like this too. Grandchildren, children, extended family. If it just doesn't sound right, it's not right, generally speaking. Yes, sir?
More than just phone calls, you're getting on the internet constantly. You're getting an email that says we want to update your information, your account has been corrupted, we need to follow.
Provide none of it. Don't provide any information to strangers. Nobody who's calling you up, you don't have to give them any of this stuff.
There's
Yes, ma'am.
another scam going around that when Publishers Clearinghouse is sending theirs out, they make it look very much, the envelope very much like Publishers Clearinghouse, and they go, call this number, but we also need you to send us just a small fee.
Yeah, throw it out.
And right away, but the thing is, people who really don't read well or who are so anxious to win money think that's what it's.
Congratulations, you won a trip. Just call us, and the next thing you know, they're trying to sell you something. You know, yeah, I'm a skeptic. You know, I just hang up on people. I tell them don't call back. I throw the stuff in the garbage. This is what I was doing for a long time. All the junk mail I got, I used to rip up most of the stuff. But if they had a return envelope, I'd stick all the junk in their return envelope and send it back to them. Yeah.
What happens if it's PAL?
Throw it out. You get these phone calls for donations. Oh, just forget about it. Half of it's a scam.
This is not 60% new.
It's not new stuff, but there's always new victims.
Getting back to burglaries right now, there's something that's been on YouTube, and it's scary when you see it. People go into garages that fill up with gas, and usually the victim is a woman, because the pocketbook is left in the car. A car pulls up parallel on the right side, person gets out, you don't even see him. He's huddled low, he opens up the passenger's door, grabs the pocketbook, gone. And they showed security cameras at gas stations. And it's constantly happening.
You know, there's ways of being victimized limitless. You just have to be cognizant. You have to, utilize, all sorts of precautions, universal precautions. It's like telling a kid, you don't take candy from a stranger. Well, it's like I have to tell, a senior citizen, you don't take the phone calls, you don't take, the mailings, that's it. You don't do it.
There's an old story about the jungle. The lion doesn't be faster than the fastest gazelle. He only has to be faster than the slowest gazelle. And what happens is if you're a person who doesn't follow all these precautions, you're going to be the victim. Because they're looking for the slowest gazelle.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
I'm interested in the high school kids, or even junior high schools, who might be going into experimentation and even heroin now. I understand in Smithtown High School it's a big issue, and I'm not sure about Commack High School because I'm out of the business for a long time. What can be done? Is cooperation between the school district and the police? Is there undercover? Is there anything like that?
Well, there's a variety of different things. I'm not going to tell you there's undercover. It's not 21 Jump Street, if you remember the old TV show. We don't have that going on, but we have a lot of communications with school districts. We have what we call school resource officers that are assigned to particular schools, and they can float around to any school. But the issue of drugs in schools, every school in the country probably has somebody utilizing drugs. It's absolutely amazing to me of this nationwide effort to legalize marijuana. It's absolutely insane to me. Why our politicians aren't standing up for the right thing is beyond me.
Money.
But it's, money, looking for votes, whatever it is, but it's a gateway to more serious drugs. It's, any kid, any family member, if you find out that, they're using drugs, you gotta intervene immediately. There's no such thing as a safe drug, including an awful lot, there's no such thing as an illegal safe drug, and I would say an awful lot of the legal drugs are going way beyond where they should be going. The oxycodones, and all that other stuff. I mean, drugs is a big problem. Drugs and alcohol is a huge problem. It's got a foundation in damn near every bad part of life that we deal with.
With Suffolk County's budget in the red, I don't see it getting any better. What effect does that have on the police department as a whole, Suffolk County?
I'm not the budget guy, but we're getting the job done. Crime is going down, so we're successful in that regard.
You guys have the equipment that you need? You got the cars? You got the...
We got everything. Don't put me on the spot here, come on. I'm only a deputy inspector. We're getting the job done, and crime is going down. Great success stories. I led off. Inspector Murphy is well aware of this burglary pattern we had, but that's a success story. We had the resources to commit to this crime pattern, and we put an end to it. So,
Department in full strength?
getting the job done. Come on, huh? All right.
Do you guys,
Fair enough.
do you guys cooperate with the school districts and have like, call the kids in an auditorium and give a presentation and talk about?
We do presentations. You know, I guess if you remember, DARE was a program way back when, and now it's what the heck is it?
Don't worry, it'll pop up.
Nobody knows? What they found out is DARE, although DARE was very popular amongst teachers and parents and school administrators, it really wasn't effective.
Right.
So that kind of got restructured, and they teaching an older student body, and they have like anti-racism lectures. What the heck is it?
Is it women against drunk drivers?
Excuse me?
Man.
What about?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's an active MAD program in Suffolk County.
I have two questions. One is senior. I got this from SeniorNet.
Throw it out!
It's a senior organization. Actually, it's very helpful for people who are not here. We seem to be knowledgeable about how to get ripped off and scams. How many people do you know that I know? I have two neighbors, elderly, seniors, and if they get a bill, they pay that bill, no matter where it comes from. And I'm saying, no, first of all, the insurance company is going to pay that, just notifying you of that bill. But anyway, there have been more than 20,000 people, seniors from every state, have been ripped off by getting a phone call saying, I belong to the IRS, we understand you haven't paid your taxes, send us a debit, whatever, send us the money. And then they get another call, supposedly from the police department, said, we understand that you were notified, if you do not pay this, you're going to get arrested. And these people right away, they're fragile, maybe not a little too swift in the mind, but they've been ripping off these people. So we know it. If you know some people fall into that category, please notify them. And that's why they're notifying all the seniors. It's not the people who belong to the organization, it's the ones who don't. That's when they have the problem. The other note is about 3 weeks ago, Governor Cuomo said he's looking for 100,000 volunteers. He didn't specify what it was for, but I guess it was something similar to the storms we have. We know what's happening in our neighborhood, and obviously we are the first eyes that see the problem. But who do we notify? The fire department? You have, like what happened in Sandy. I mean, people without electricity, people who are on machines that require electricity, didn't have any. There has to be a group, and I don't know if the police department uses volunteers anymore.
We really don't have something like that, but I know I get stuff from the fire department. They ask you to fill out a card if you have somebody in the household that needs, electricity because of, medical devices and stuff like that. I'm guessing it's the local fire departments. There may be a couple of other agencies, social service agencies.
I think utility does that.
Utility does it also.
If you notify the utility, they make sure that they
Yeah, I think
come down
what
with a generator.
Governor Cuomo was talking about, in the event there's a disaster, is there a group within each community who
It's CERT. It's CERT is an acronym for.
Yeah.
You got it?
Community Emergency Response Team.
You're right. All right.
I actually sat down with them.
It's not here.
We actually tried to get something off the ground, but unfortunately never came to fruition because we tried
It's a lot
to
of
marry up with the school. So our group trying to get the school themselves to open up the building and bring moms and dads and all that. But,
You may or may not be right. I'm not sure what stage that's at, but CERT is to train volunteers to be able to be active in their community to help, fellow community members.
They're on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't know what the status of that is, but
We as a police department are not really involved in that. Obviously, when we do have disasters, we're very, very active. We work with the Red Cross and all of their
Well,
agencies.
let me give you a better example. You may have read recently where some of the lawyers are getting together and they want to pass a law saying if you go more than 20 miles an hour in the school zone, you're going to get a ticket. Now, they're even thinking of putting these red light systems in place in these school zones.
No, you mean the speed cameras?
I read where that wasn't passed.
That was defeated.
Yeah,
That was
right,
defeated.
Right, it hasn't been passed, but
It was defeated.
yeah, I know. What I'm saying is that I happened to pass the school in Town Line Road, and here's this guy garbage truck going down. He's doing 40 miles an hour, right in front of, because I was going 20, and there was a line in back of me.
That's actually slow compared to what they do there, you know.
That's what Rob Trotter said. You call him and he'll get police presence there to,
Now, the question is this. Is that a way, hey, you got school crossing guards. Little old ladies with a stop sign.
Well, they're also
Do
only
they
there.
stop?
They're also only there for an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon.
Their mission is to cross kids, not
Yeah.
Right.
regular traffic.
So
but who do you call? When you notice there's something like a lot of speeding cars down the street, you call the
Yeah,
precinct?
if there's something that is unique to a location or constantly ongoing, yeah, you can call the precinct. We do what we call a patrol check, and we'll, dedicate some patrol time to provide some police presence, a little bit of enforcement action. I know on Town Line Road we've done a lot. We've done a lot with commercial trucks and stuff like that. I believe we alleviated some of those problems. I believe. Unless anybody wants to correct me, if you don't think it's been alleviated.
I wanted to ask Inspector Murphy a question about Town Line Road. I'm sure you know that Smithtown has banned heavy trucking on their side of Town Line Road. Is it possible to enforce Smithtown's law on their side of Town Line Road?
Yes, and we have been. Our motor carrier safety unit's been going down there.
Even though the sign hasn't been changed?
No, the sign has been changed on Smithtown's side.
I saw it, it says the time frame is still on there.
No, it doesn't say except. Going north on Town Line Road, it just says no heavy trucking.
Does it say that? I thought I saw the sign that had the time frame.
Except 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
Yeah, I thought I did, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
I don't know. I know motor carrier has been up there though. So.
Well, I know they've been up there inspecting trucks, but have trucks who are using that road been given summonses for using it?
I'm not aware at all.
Okay. Could you check on that for us?
Was the motor carrier division on Crooked Hill Road that?
Yes.
Is that finished?
Yes, they're open.
It is open.
It's open and being used.
Okay.
I just want to state, I use Town Line Road quite a bit, almost every day I'm down it and come back up. And I've noticed that on Smithtown side, there are very few big trucks coming down. However, going up north from there, I see a lot. On Friday, I saw 3 big trucks, one after the other, and they were not going even 30 miles an hour. They were going at 40, 45. Because I slowed down and do the speed limit, and they were doing at least going the other way.
We're having an issue, I don't know, I'm sure you're aware of that.
Take a look at it.
I did see a difference on the Smithtown side.
How does Town Line Road work? One side of the street is Smithtown and one side of the street is Huntington. So
Yeah.
how does that work?
Their own laws apply.
There are also
No,
different
but I mean,
precincts.
police-wise, you're in the second and the foot.
Yes, we
You
both.
send a car and one guy watches one side of the street, one guy watches the other side of the street.
Basically, that's the way it is,
And I
yeah.
also
If I send units up there, we're actually watching both sides, and I'm sure the second does the same.
I also wanted to mention,
tickets to the second precinct.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
also
it's one
wanted to
count.
mention that coming from Clay Pits and making the right turn onto Town Line Road and that little triangle there, 2 or 3 times since last fall till about a month ago, I have seen officers stop there and stopping people, drivers, not only I didn't see, I saw one truck, but also cars, because they don't stop. It's for the stop signs, and I think there might have been a number of crashes. But I do see presence, except I don't see a big difference with some of the truckers.
To go back to your question about the drug problem, what you could all do, if you have Vicodin or Percocet or anything in your medicine cabinet and you're not using it, go put it in a safe or give it to someone else or put it down the drain. Because your kids...
All right.
bring it to the precinct and you can put it in our program. But your kids, your nieces and nephews, they can sell that in high school for $25 to $35 a pill, and that's very, very common. But even people who come to visit you and use your bathroom, so don't leave them in Madison County.
In the town of Smithtown, who's responsible for getting a traffic light put in at a certain location?
The Traffic Safety Division.
Because I have been pleading, and I don't know, that's why I'm here tonight. Vanderbilt Motor Parkway, crossing from now the North Shore Farms Supermarket to Chase Bank. There's already been a fatality there. The cars coming west on Vanderbilt Parkway are going 50 miles an hour down that hill, and somebody coming out of the Chase Bank trying to go across, boom. And that was, I think, 6 months ago, a year ago, an elderly man got killed. And there's already been another accident where a car flipped over. We desperately need a traffic light there. And when I called Smithtown, they said, oh, it's too close to the traffic light on Commack Road. That's ridiculous.
I think that's a county road.
It's also a county road though.
So you have to call the county for that.
Yeah.
County
road. And this, you know, they, like the inspector said, there are traffic engineers, they study traffic patterns. It's not feasible to put a light at every, you know, intersection. You can't put stop signs at every intersection. You know, they try and plan it so they can facilitate the smooth and safe flow of traffic. We're not going to eliminate car accidents. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
And you gotta remember also, a light costs $100,000 to be installed.
But if there's a propensity at one corner, obviously they're not doing their job and checking it out.
Let me, before I answer your question, let me just also say something about driving and senior citizens. I know AARP kind of advises seniors to try and develop car habits, driving habits, where they're not in a position where they have to be making left-hand turns. And if you think about that, you can kind of understand the rationale. You know, if you're going to be making a left-hand turn in front of traffic, you know, they advise you to maybe alter your driving so that you don't have to put yourself in that position, because maybe you drive a little bit slower, the eyesight may not be as good as it used to, right? Okay.
What about people who are with cell phones going in and out, weaving, and
Yeah,
there's no control of that?
it's dangerous.
And then the younger people.
It's dangerous. It's real dangerous. We write someone
It's
for that.
insane.
Yeah, and you got to be careful. You know, you can be driving. You can have the greatest driving habits, and the next thing you know, somebody, you know, coming perpendicular, doesn't see the red light, and goes right through. You know.
Who controls the highways? Is it the Sheriff's Department or the Suffolk County Police?
Suffolk County Police.
And I've noticed that there's no one doing 55 on the expressway of the Northern State. If I'm doing 55, I'm in the right lane, and everybody on the road is passing me.
Right.
So
They're insane.
what is the speed limit mean anymore?
Well, you've done the 70. We're not going to prevent speeding. You know,
No, I understand, but you know, are police not stopping speeders?
no, certainly we're stopping speeders.
Or is it like
No,
over 80 miles an hour they get stopped?
You know, if everybody's going 60, you know, we're not going to stop it.
No, I understand.
60's good.
As long as you're not
70. 70.
You know, yeah, when you're reckless, you're going in at traffic, you're changing lanes without signaling, you're going at such a speed that is beyond the flow of traffic, yeah, that gets our attention. And, but, you know, listen, if the speed limit's 55, if you're going 56, doesn't mean you're getting a license.
No,
I'm just being real here, you know.
Of course.
How many people here never spend their life? Never spend their life. Raise your hand.
I only speed.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Is it, like they just put in farmers on Vanderbilt?
They put in what?
North Shore Farm. It's a new store just opened last week.
Farms, right. Now that's going to draw a lot more traffic than has been there since Wallbounds closed down. Even the reason Wallbounds closed because it wasn't a very active supermarket. Do they do testing on the road then to know where they should put a light at that time within a certain amount of
I
time?
think they do. Yeah, I think they do.
Oh, they need it.
And then at what point after the thing is open, is it 3 months, 6 months, a year? But they do surveys.
He's not talking
No, I just wondered.
Yeah, they do. I mean, you know, theoretically, there's a, you know, an assessment going on for all sorts of stuff.
If enough people complain, they'll do a traffic survey.
Yeah, but sometimes by the time you complain, it's too late, because it's already.
Yeah, I can answer that for you.
Thing is to do with,
I worked on a central records unit for a couple of years, and we keep track of, we make an extra copy of every accident report that happens on a county road, and there's a department in the Suffolk County Department of Public Works where they monitor those particular situations, and they'll actually see what is an uptick in the number of accidents. They'll go out and they'll resurvey the road. When a new shopping center is built and they have to cut a new pathway onto the road, a new driveway, they actually do all the traffic measurements and the safety
right, that I know about.
when they first open.
Right.
Now, if you put a new store in there where they're going to do 3 times the activity, of course, that's probably going to change the number of accidents. But that's monitored by DPW.
Thank you.
I like your point about left turns. We as drivers need to assist the police, I think, in not doing
Right.
things that are hard. So, for example, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 rights make a left.
Dum-dum. And there's a man in the cloth right there.
How has it been, the accidents that you guys, when you stop a car on the highways or anyplace else? It's been terrible, the safety precautions you now have to take. Why has that changed? You know, years ago, if a police car was behind another car, they didn't have the number of fatalities that they have today.
A lot more drivers on the road, more careless. It's a lot less,
No cell phones.
yeah. There's more drivers, more traffic, more distractions.
They've done
It's
research too on, I learned this when I was a police officer, that your hands will follow your eyes. They've done research on flashing lights that police use, and a lot of people are busy looking at the police car at the side of the road, and they steer the car into the police car because it's an unconscious thing. So if you're aware of it, maybe when you're passing the scene, you'll remember that and be a little safer.
Yeah, they actually passed the law, you gotta move over if you can. If you can, I know it's tough, but it is dangerous for us out there.
When we did our combat shooting, they said, look at your target and your hands will follow, particularly if it's dark and you haven't got any lights and this guy wants to kill you, you want to be there first, Fortunately, it never happened to me, but it has to be in the back of your mind.
Is there any talk about, after a snowstorm, there's got the people that drive them down, they got a foot of snow on the roof, and they're driving down the highway, and it's onto you and everybody else, and it's really a safety issue. I know you guys have enough to write,
You
but
can't legislate common sense,
I
It's one of those common sense things, and you just can't legislate it. I think there was talk of that at some point, I don't think anything materialized.
Yeah.
But again, people don't bother cleaning all of their windows from, snow. They don't bother cleaning off the lights, the headlights and the tail lights.
It was either New Jersey or Pennsylvania that just passed that law.
Yeah.
Within a
All
less
right,
than-
everybody move to New Jersey.
Was that this year?
Just can't legislate. Common sense.
Well, one or the other, I'm not sure.
I
I
think
remember reading about it.
New Jersey, and they did it principally because of trucks.
There's giant sheets of ice come flying off.
Yeah.
I've listened to the online scanner, and I am amazed at how many of the calls that come into you are for medical reasons. What do they supply you with, and what training do they give you that they have now made this basically part of your job? You arrive before the ambulance, I've noticed. So,
Well, for the last 20 years, every officer who comes out of the academy is a certified EMT.
Wow.
We also have certain officers, we call them MedCat officers. They're specially trained and they're advanced EMTs, advanced life support systems. They could actually ride an ambulance and hook you up to your IVs and the monitors to go to the hospital. But they're, oh yeah, I have a couple under my belt. My very first call at the academy, I delivered a baby. The mother's name was Ida Holder. And she was a double amputee. She actually had no legs.
Oh, wow.
So that was a memory for me. But
In addition, we all carry pulse oximeters, they carry oxygen and defibrillators. I think Narcan is the opiate,
drug overdose.
I just heard that.
yeah.
It almost seems ludicrous that within a 4-mile range from Town Line Road, going down Commack Road to the expressway, there are 4 red light cameras. And why did they put one in by Meat Farm Shopping Center? I mean, there's a traffic light there, the elderly people come in, they slow down, make their right turn. Now they're all getting caught. I've watched it. And they're all getting caught on that red light.
Well, mission accomplished. That's why. Maybe we need 5 of them. We got another one over there.
There's nobody on the left
There's
side.
nobody on the left side. There's no reason for them to
Yeah.
come to it.
I have no idea what the criteria is.
There is one intersection, though, that should have a red light camera, and that's Commack Road and Vanderbilt Motor Parkway going north. There are signs that say, no right turn on a red light. The people ignore it, they make a right turn off of Commack Road, onto Vanderbilt, right by the Bonnewood, and boom, there's constant accidents there. That's the one intersection that needs a red light camera.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's there.
I don't know.
Vanderbilt and Commack Road.
That's actually without police officers.
No, there's no red light camera.
That's a county issue. You gotta make that request to the county. The county manages traffic light cameras.
In the shopping centers too, by Michael's, you're not supposed to make a right turn in Macy's.
I'll give you the reason.
I can't tell you, I've seen at least 10 in the last 2 months. They pull right through, make a right
Is there
turn.
anything of you gentlemen who are spending extra time tonight, thank you very much, would want to request of us as a civic association? You know, that what we could do to help in any situation that you find you need community help.
Related to that, how do you guys interact with community watches?
We have an officer dedicated to that function.
And what happens when they see a crime? They have his cell number and they call him directly?
Well, if anybody sees a crime, it's 911.
So even the community watches that drive around, they dial 911?
Yeah, the auxiliary, well, we give our auxiliary police officers radios. But, if you observe anything that's suspicious or, crime in progress, by all means, call 911. If you see strangers in the neighborhood or going up to your neighbor's house, your house, the backyards, I mean, anything you see that is suspicious, by all means, you call 911. If everybody's got a cell phone camera, you can snap a picture of the person. I will add, with the arrests last week, one of the neighborhood kids whose friend's house was burglarized and snapped a picture of the car. He just said, I'd never seen this car before, he snapped a picture of the car. And that was one of the cars used in the burglaries. So, that stuff is helpful. You see something in the neighborhood, take a picture of it and call 911. Not everything is, not everything's a bad thing, but if it's unusual to you, we'll check it out.
How do you actually know as a citizen if you do call in and say, okay, I got, like you just said, this car is unfamiliar, you stop. So I just had this situation in my neighborhood, in the Candy area, behind a high school, a house that was robbed, and the guy who lives across the street is actually a
Your house was robbed?
No, not mine, a neighbor of mine around the block. And the guy who lives across the street is a city cop. He was telling me about it 2 nights ago at my house. And there was someone parked in front of his house, so he, went out there to take a look, he did get a plate number, this and that, and all that. But how do you know as a citizen, when you call 911, and say, okay, we've got the information, how do we know that it was actually looked into?
Well,
I mean, it might sound like a silly question, but how do you know it's being addressed?
Generally speaking, we'll dispatch a patrol car to that location. If it's something that we can figure out, there are things that we can figure out that we don't tell people. Maybe a car, maybe it's one of our cars, we do have one of our cars, we do surveillances, so they're probably watching your house as a matter of fact. We're usually asking too many questions.
Unless you're driving a Honda, probably not.
You asked about the budget. For the most part, we'll dispatch a patrol car, we can, run a plate number, if the plate looks like it belongs, we'll knock on the door or whatever.
If you have information that you want to call into us, and it's not necessary that you actually have a police car come to your house to speak to you about it, you can call it into the precinct. If you have the number for your local precinct's COPE office or their precinct crime section, those officers will take the information gladly. And we put it into our, we call it our debriefing system. It's the same system where we put information that we get from criminals. If we arrest somebody for a burglary, it's usually because they're doing heroin. And we want to find out from this person, first of all, how many more burglaries have you done? Do you know anybody else who's doing burglaries? Where do you dispose of the stolen property? Where do you get your heroin? So we debrief them, we ask them all these questions, and we put it into a master database. And that's what we do with all information that comes in. And that's been a big part of our most recent administration of the Chief Burke. He rolled out this intelligence-led policing program, which is rolled out all over the country right now. It's a big rave in police work. Working off the information that you can get. And it's amazing how many crimes you can solve if you have the data in a database someplace. So if you call it in, someone's going to put it into the system. And if a police officer takes the information from you, that officer's name is attached to the information. And so he'll ask you for your name and phone number. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to come out and speak to you, but it's good that we have that relationship, that you can call it in, and if we have additional questions, we can call you back. So,
Okay, but if I had additional questions, so if I go through the 911 system, I give my name, my number, what my complaint is, okay, if I as a citizen want to do a follow-up on that, is there I'll just say a number associated with that call, and if I want to go back and say, hey, I called on so-and-so?
it depends on the information that you're giving. If it's criminal in nature, yes, they'll assign a number to it. If not, you can call a local precinct crime section, and they can look into the debriefing system to find this information to see what's being done with it.
Okay. So, one other question also. I noticed, in fact, I had a complaint. I actually went to the second precinct about this, but not the fourth. Who's with the fourth? No, with the motor vehicle accidents that happen around the area throughout the year. Okay. I believe it's the tow truck, the contract that the tow trucks have with the town, that they're responsible for picking up the debris, and I was told, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the police officer on scene is supposed to make sure that the debris is cleaned up before he leaves the scene. Is that true or false?
Well, it's not the cop's job to double check on the contractor, the vendor. It's one of the items we just rolled out at our precinct inspections. Has come to our attention that not all of these tow truck operators are cleaning the street. And we're asking our cops now to follow up on it to make sure the junk gets picked up. So
All right, because I see that there's a few accidents around Commack right now. They've been there for months. Not that they were expecting to
Yeah,
change
tow
it for
truck
months.
operator is required to clean up the debris. That's part of the, that's in the VTO.
Well, so basically, if they don't like to call the priest and say, hey, there's an MVA was here on whatever, the debris still here, you
Yeah,
guys
also,
get in contact with the person who was on scene, tow truck, and have them come back and clean it up?
I've got the precinct. I'm not sure, depending on the time frame. If you call the following day, I'm not so sure that guy's going to come back and clean it up. More than likely, the town will be responsible for sending a street sweeper out. But
All the tow trucks are also permitted by the various towns, so they have to comply. Complaint could also be directed to the town, whoever, if there's a tow truck list.
Okay.
See, we go off a list, we go to an accident, cars need to be towed, we just go off a list that's generated by the town.
Is that a revolving list, or is there some people on the...
And they just keep going through the list.
So whoever answers, that's when it goes to pick it up?
Well, we go sequentially, say there's 20 people on the list, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, when we've had 20 incidents, go back to the top. That's a town issue. The town is the one that approves them for the list.
Macy's area on Veterans and that shopping center, and the one, if I'm looking at Macy's to the left, is the Bagel Chalet, and we've been noticing panhandlers. And is that against, in other words, somebody coming up to you and requesting money? A woman the other day had said that she needed money for rent or whatever. Is that okay, and just say no to that person and just go on?
You say no to that person and go on.
Call the police.
Loitering for begging, I struck that down.
Yeah, no, you can still look them up. It's under the local ordinances, in Smithtown anyway. There's no begging allowed.
There's no.
Right.
So when you see the ones by the Kohl's and the Walmart, with the big
Call in.
signs out, the families roped out there,
Call us.
those are, okay, well, sure.
Because it's a whole new industry that has suddenly.
Sure. You're feeding somebody's drug habit. Guaranteed.
Absolutely.
And they get you with those kids. The kids out there, they're even amazing what they use.
Yeah, we had 2 arrests last week. That's why I know it's going on.
Any last questions or statements, or guess we're gonna take a break, and we thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much.
I want to leave a couple of flyers here. I don't know if you mentioned about the car seat inspections that they're doing. If you know anybody who has young children with car seats, they can come down for a free inspection to make sure the seats are installed safely. For those who can't afford it, they're also giving away some car seats and booster seats. So I only printed a half dozen or so, but some of them are in Spanish also.
Sure. Last question.
In Florida, they have this standing ground law. What is it in New York? If you're inside your house and somebody breaks in, what do you say?
Let's hope that.
If you're in your house, you can stand your ground. If you're in your house, for a civilian.
You can do whatever needs to be done to defend yourself.
Okay.
The way the law is, if you're in a position where you can retreat, you have to retreat, unless you're in your house. I, however, do not have to retreat. Excuse me? Well, I'm not going to tell you when you can shoot somebody. There's a lot of law on that. If somebody were to use or attempt to use deadly force against you, you can use deadly force back. But I'm not going to tell you when you cannot shoot somebody or stab somebody. But you can utilize self-defense. It's got to be reasonable. And I know nobody here is going to go read the law right now or tonight.
Keep a baseball bat in the corner by your front door.
You see
And
somebody,
a phone, 911.
you see somebody breaking into your car on your driveway. What rights do you have? To stop
Call
them?
911.
That's 911.
You can't use any physical force on them to stop them.
Physical force is different than deadly physical force. Again, I don't want to get in a long dissertation on the law. You can use physical force to protect your stuff, and then it can evolve into, it can just deteriorate. You call 911. Call 911.
But you do have the authority to actually hold that person, actually physically arrest that person until the police show up. That you're actually entitled to make that civilian arrest. Under the law, I'm not recommending you do that. I suggest it's just your car.
And
Call
suddenly
911.
they pull a weapon.
It's just a car. You can replace it. Call 911.
That's why you don't go out there.
Yeah. I wanted to mention one thing.
One more thing.
Earlier I mentioned that there's a little bit of reorganization of COPE. How many people are familiar with our COPE sections? Those are the guys and girls that the precinct commanders really rely upon to do the special stuff, the request, the community stuff. That's being reorganized.
In every precinct.
Yes, in every countywide. What you've come to know as COPE is going to be the people. Some people will remain in what you knew as COPE, and some of those people who were in COPE are going to be transferring to a different command, but they'll be doing the same work. So if anything hits the paper or the news or whatever, we're not disbanding COPE. We're realigning it. The COPE people are going to be our problem solvers, our community people, and each precinct will have essentially 2 COPE officers for problem-oriented policing issues, and each precinct will also have what we call community liaison officer. So I think it's going to work great. It's going to be a point of contact, a person you're going to know, and we'll still have the enforcement function, but they won't be called COPE.
They're called Community Support Unit, CSU, you can issue new license plates, CSU, that's what they
Are
are.
those two on duty per shift?
In the CSU, in my precinct, we're gonna have one CSU sergeant and 3 CSU officers who were in our previous COPE unit, now doing the same work, just with a new name.
Okay.
And we have at any given time 1 officer on an evening shift and 2 officers on a day shift between Monday and Friday doing community-oriented work.
That all took effect today, that reorganization, and,
What's that in response to?
The Justice
okay,
Department.
the deeper story is the Justice Department who got involved after little Sarah murder in Patchogue. The Justice Department offered an awful lot of recommendations for the police department to follow. I will emphasize that the Justice Department found no wrongdoing. They spent like 3 years investigating and they found no wrongdoing whatsoever. But they decided, the Justice Department, you know, the government, the people in Washington, you know, all of those people, they decided, they offered suggestions of what they thought would be good for us to employ. Police commissioner and the county government agreed to that. I think it's going to work out fine. I don't think you're going to see a difference whatsoever, but it's going to work out fine. So.
That's sending money with these five.
Don't be silly. No.
Did they send money along? With their recommendations?
No, they didn't send any money.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Hey, Bruce. I gotta go as well.
Take care. Okay. You'll have a chance.
All right. Take care.
Okay, all the officers are present tonight. We're going to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the preceding meeting because everyone got an email to them. Anybody have any corrections or additions or deletions?
I'm going to be adding Mr. Murphy to the minutes list, to the applications list.
Okay.
If it comes to other meetings.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Inspector Murphy.
And which one was the one here?
He's the 4th precinct, and the one speaking was the 2nd precinct. Excuse me? No, he was Inspector Murphy and Deputy Inspector Reed.
Yes.
No, we announced him at the beginning.
Could you put in the phone numbers, his phone number, do you have the information? Yes.
So can I have a motion to accept the minutes as having been read? Faith, seconded by Della. All those in favor? Okay.
Can I just ask, is there anyone who didn't get minutes or email?
Did everyone get email the minutes?
Or
Thank you. Reports of officers. I've got 4 things to report to you. I received 3 correspondence, one just this evening, this afternoon. The first one was from Richard Masalero. If you remember, he was running for town council. He came to our meeting and introduced himself. I don't know how young. I think he's a retired New York City department planner or something. He was a Democrat, and he is proposing to establish a Smithtown Planning and Development Association. The mission of SPOTA would be to generate plans for Smithtown's future growth and development to enhance quality of life interests, to provide for resident safety, protect the environment, secure financial stability and resources. And he puts himself forward as being, he'll be happy to be in charge of that. So I don't know if that's part of his political interests or whether this is a real thing. I'll get in touch with him and report back. I also got a letter from the email from the League of Women Voters, who are having a an evening presentation called Suburban America Problems and Promise on Wednesday, April 30th, from 7 to 8:45 p.m. at the Smithtown branch of the Smithtown Library. The program will consist first of selections from a DVD, Suburbia, from documentary maker Ron Rudatis, which was shown on public television, and they will be followed by question and answer period. We believe this interesting program will benefit all civic and business groups by encouraging and exploring the effects of changes in suburbia. We have your support by listing you as a partner organization and encouraging your board and members to attend on April 30th. There's no cost to the program, but adding your name and working with you will definitely benefit us all. Shall we add our name to the program as a sponsor? I think the League of Women Voters is generally an upright organization.
Do we need a
And they've
vote
been
on
around a
that?
long time. What?
Do we need a vote?
I don't think so, just a consensus, you know. Let's take a vote. Can I have a motion to join this? Pat, seconded by Art. All those in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? It's passed unanimously, okay. And then I also got a letter this afternoon, an email this afternoon from Tony Tanzi of Indian Head Contracting on 4 Indian Head Road. He's a contractor in the area.
Yeah, he owns the
trucks.
the hardware store right by the train station.
Oh, in Kings Park.
Yeah, in Kings Park, right.
Okay. My name is Anthony Tanzi. I'm currently trying to put together several community-based organizations for the purpose of effecting some positive changes throughout the township. I would like to see if the Commack Community Association would have an interest in participating with us. I would love to have a conversation with you at your earliest convenience regarding some ideas in the group in general. And he gives his phone number to be reached. So I'll call him and sit down with him and see.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Invite him to the next meeting in April.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Okay, and the fourth thing is, I'll be meeting on Wednesday with people from the Kings Park Civic Association and from the Town Line Road Association and from the Lawrence Hill Task Force, thank you. To talk about the changes for the Kings Park Industrial Park. And if you read about it in the newspaper, Councilman McCarthy suggested having a 15-person panel to come up with ideas for the Kings Park Industrial Park. But Supervisor Vecchio has already said he doesn't want any panels. He's not in any groups. He doesn't want anybody telling him what to do. And he says, that never works anyway. So I think he's put the kibosh on it. And what the Kings Park people would like to do is to get some support around what's called a zoning overlay district, which means they put some new zoning just in that district. And I think that what they're talking about is enforcing the zoning laws that we have now, but putting in outside storage as a zoning change for the parts that are zoned industrial, heavy and light. And also the ability to do some mulching, but inside a building, so the fumes can be contained. After the meeting, I'll come back and tell you exactly what.
Who's going to work in a building if you're doing mulching and there's fumes?
Oh, people with masks.
Something more than that.
Yeah, well, it's heavy duty stuff. I mean, right now they're doing it outside.
Yeah, but it should be limited.
Right.
Part of that area is the end of Town Line Road, by Old Northport Road, by the dump over there, by the incinerator. So that kind of affects the traffic that comes down
Town Line Road.
Town Line Road.
Yeah, that whole area is commercial, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
It's all industrial.
industrial, commercial,
Yeah.
light industrial.
But
Yeah, it's also heavy industrial, there's some heavy industrial.
There's also a lot of residential mixed in with it that they're using as light commercial, or light industrial.
Something.
Right,
they
right.
can filter any exhaust going out, because Commack does that.
Yes, yes, you know, I'll let you know after the meeting on Wednesday what they have to say. But I think that probably Kings Park is leading this because it's in their town, in their area. But with a neighboring village, hamlet, whatever. And that's all I have to report on my activities this month. Dan?
The only thing I have is I went to the school board the budget meetings, and I guess you'll all be happy to know that your tax is going up, but only 2% to the levy. One of the board members at the last budget meeting objected, that's Jim Tampley, he objected to the fact that the school district is basically, in his opinion and a lot of people's opinion, hoarding money. Basically what they do is they say we need $100 million this year to run the school district, and at the end of the year they only end up spending, let's say, $90 million. So that's a unexpended budget surplus, and that's something that seems to be frowned upon by the controller's office. So he's trying to affix change to that.
Well, they're only allowed 6% in a reserve, 4% in a reserve fund.
And right now, we have that 4%. We have, in a separate bank account, we have about $7 million, $6.5 million in a bank account. It's our rainy day fund in case there is a problem. We have that money there, but this is in addition to that. And it's just something that's perpetual. So he's trying to affix change to it, but he's against, three longtime board members who seem to think things are okay.
It seems that the New York State has increased the amount of monies that they're allotting for the school system. Something like 1.3 billion. Was that included in there?
Well, we're not getting, Commack isn't getting 1.3 billion. They're
I
getting
realize,
a
but
portion
they
of that
get
1.3 billion.
right.
They don't know right now what they can't nail down exactly how much state aid they're going to get. So they have a figure that they think they're going to get, but they could get more or they could get less.
Well, there's been no state budget adopted, so it's up in the air still.
Oh, tonight.
It'll be
Tonight.
Right.
Right, tonight.
No, it's not tonight.
Yeah, they,
April 1st, yeah.
They have to do it by tonight.
April
The
1st.
next meeting is April 3rd, which is this Thursday. This
No, not for the
No,
board,
it's
for
the
the
state.
state.
The state.
Oh, okay.
State budget.
Okay,
State
yep,
budget.
okay. I was trying to multitask.
Dan, did they ever go into that fund for when Superstorm Sandy came? Did they have any problems? When have they used this rainy day fund? And,
As far as I can tell,
Never.
never. I mean, they have,
So
they
what's the
have
purpose?
so much money that they don't really need to go into it. They claim that they use it the next year, but then they raise our taxes again, and we have the same surplus the next year. So it's kind of a way, and some people's opinion is to circumvent the 4% cap. Because if you
2%.
no, there's a 2% tax cap that you can't raise your tax levy more than 2%.
Right.
And that's not really a hard 2% number. The number could be 2.5, 2.6.
Right.
It's in a formula. So 2% is not a true number, it goes through a formula. And you could also exceed the tax cap of 2%, but by whatever you need. Let's say they propose a 10% raise. If they get a super majority, which is 60% of the people in the community vote to give a 10% raise to the tax levy, then it passes. But it's got to be a super majority rather than just 50% plus one vote.
The rebate that they were talking about is based on the school district keeping below 2%.
Yes.
Then we can get a rebate.
Miraculously, if you look in the Newsday, just about all the school districts came under the 2%. So So I guess they're trying to appease the taxpayer to an extent.
And with this extra money, going to be even less. Unless they want to start giving salaries to administrators and the assistant administrators increases.
We're going to need to ban the electric and stuff.
Well, when I got my tax bill from the town, I counted up the number of different taxes on that bill. 14. There's 14 different taxing organizations in Commack that tax us.
But
Well, it's not just a
just to
Commack,
stick
it's
on,
state.
I understand, but you know,
Because these fellows were here
it's everybody. You know, it's 14. A lot of them are small, but it's still 14.
but just to go back to your question about the 2%, 4%, so it's 2% on the tax levy, but they're allowed to have 4% of their budget in an unrestricted account, which is, you can go into it for anything. If you need more pencils, if you need more paper, that number is 4% of the total of the budget.
Part of what's happened with the budget this year too is that you have 150 children who are not going to be in those classrooms. The enrollment has dropped by 150 students, but there's no conscious analysis on the budget. I brought all of the budgets for you to look at. You can take them home and hopefully get to one of the meetings, and I think you'll find there'll be a little bit of a change because we think there's a second person who is not going to run this year, beside the one that has already announced. So
There are two seats up. Mr. One has already said he's not running. Mrs. Masiello's seat is up. And she hasn't made an announcement yet, as far as I know. Dan, do you know anything?
They want somebody's name on it.
Dan?
They're not running for themselves.
Okay. What's that? Do you know about whether Masiello is running again?
I don't know, she hasn't made a decision, so,
But Bunch has already announced, right?
yeah, he's already announced that he wasn't gonna run at, the last previous meeting, 2 meetings ago, and, there's no decision by the other board member.
Maureen, I didn't understand.
The scuttlebutt
Wait.
The scuttlebutt over there is that she is not going to keep running. I got that from 2 different people.
So it might be 2 seats open.
Yeah.
And we should really look for people that we can support. It would be really important to get a change in that school board and not have the same old crowd come in and do it all over again. So if you can think of anyone, please talk to them about running the school board.
Speaking of schools, tomorrow is the Common Core. Do we have parents boycotting this? Is there any?
Testing.
How is the Smithtown and Commack schools handling this?
Some people are, there's signs all over the road that say it's a test.
But I mean, I haven't seen any committee meetings with the board or anything about it.
No, I haven't seen it.
A lot of districts, they have, you know, over 100 parents boycotting and not sending the children tomorrow.
Didn't they say they were going to put that off for 2 years?
2017
Yeah.
is what the state people are saying, they'll delay it.
Yeah, I think it
Whether
should
that's,
be.
you know.
Definitely should be. There's too much.
It's tomorrow. They're giving it tomorrow,
Right.
in all the districts.
Yeah, the ELA is tomorrow.
Yes.
English language arts.
People just don't go.
Parents are not going, but I was wondering how much of an issue, I haven't heard much in Commack.
I believe what is happening is the children are going to be taking the test,
Yes.
but they're not going to be counting the score.
Oh, so everybody goes to
So
school
it's,
and
they
takes-
want to, I think they were trying to alleviate that some people, you know, children aren't going to, that they said, and this is strictly from 8th grade parents that I've spoken to, that says that they're going to have them take them
Yeah.
to see what they're like, to see how, you know, what kind of scores they're getting, but the score is not, because a majority of these students are taking double testing because of this.
Yes.
Right.
And that's what they're more upset about, is the fact that they don't get to pick and choose. And so if they go with what they've been saying, they're gonna take them, but they're not gonna count what the score is going to be on the
I thought they were
Common
going
Core.
to be keeping the kids home.
No,
I didn't
so,
see that they're taking-
and I think that's what they were trying to prevent in the school district, of of having a parent sign on something like that when we're not even sure what it has to do with on it.
Is that the state who's saying that, or is Commack, just Commack doing that, or is that state?
Well, there's a lot of school districts, like what was being said, is they boycotted it totally. They're saying that our children are not taking them, but I don't believe that's something that we as Commack can do that, because we did, if not mistaken, did we take funds to get us into this predicament? Yeah, so I think because we did take those funds to prepare the teachers for it, we're kind of obligated to follow it until there's a final resolution on it.
Teresa, I have to ask you a question, because you have children in the school
Yes.
district. How do you find when your child approaches the Common Core lessons, how do you find those lessons?
Okay, I try not to speak on Common Core because I'm one of the fortunate parents that when my child took the Common Core, they actually did better. He did better in both the English and math. English was not a strong subject for my son, and he flourished in it. So I don't want to taint the waters, as I like to say, because I'm one for the majority of what it worked. There were some students that struggled even harder to the point where they were failing, and they're in the process of those children that may not have needed services are now getting services, but in the past they didn't need services, but because of the Common Core score, by the school district's definition of it, they have to be offered the services to help them. So I've got mixed emotions, because even though my child did better on it, I don't want it to be a spoiling of it. I really, truly am trying to get the information across the board to see what's the best for our children.
I happened to spend a week away with my grandchildren, and I was the lady doing the homework as a second grader. And it was all Common Core. I mean, he lives out in Montauk.
ELA or math?
Math.
Yeah, they don't send the ELA home, only the math.
It was so comprehensive. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Because it taught that child how to totally understand what he's doing.
That's a reason.
To really reason, and
If the child is a good reader.
you have to be probably, I mean, that's probably the crux of any education
Yeah.
being. But I was impressed that I knew when he would come up with the answers, that he totally understood what it was, the whole process of what math was all about. And, it's second grade, it's not algebra or whatever. But I don't know how the rest of it is, but I thought it was a pretty good program.
I'm very much for it. I think it's going to raise the level.
Well, I think it challenges
Maureen,
too.
I'd like to understand more about the 150 students who we have fewer of next year.
I don't know what grades they're all in.
No, but okay,
Yeah.
but okay, it's throughout the district, and it's
Throughout
not
the
just one area, or, okay.
It's not one.
So when they announce that, they don't say 150 less kindergarten registrations?
No.
So what are you saying, how is that going to affect the buildings or the classes? It seems that if that's,
The class sizes will diminish in size.
okay.
And will they
Throughout
lay more
the district.
teachers?
No, no.
No?
They,
The
no.
ratio,
No.
student, teacher.
They feel
Yeah,
that
that's
some of
great.
the.
Somebody asked that, if you go to the
Hey,
video.
Some of the savings that they're making are that they're the older group of people who are retiring.
Right,
There's getting to be, I guess, at that point, the cycle is changing.
right.
So they anticipate, I guess, bringing a new teacher in who will not demand as much. They feel that there's a peak that's happening. So it looks hopeful for the next probably 5 to 10 years, I think. But,
Thank you, thank you.
take a look at the budget, make sure you vote, whichever way you think.
If you go on YouTube, you can go and type in Commack School Board of Education. You'll see the video of the presentation, and somebody asked that question, and you could hear their response to that.
They were actually, he and a number of other people on the board were successful in getting that video to be put together by the school system.
Well, that's
not
still-
just by him.
That's still my video that I take,
Right.
but they started taping the presentation portions of it.
Good.
All the presentation portions,
Yeah.
not the discussion of any issues.
You know what? It's a start. It's a start. Hopefully, there'll be more demand for it.
That's why we need different people on the board.
Well,
Maureen, you have a report?
Do you want me to just mention the farm as well, or no?
Yes,
We'll-
just
we
briefly,
got
this
an
is
agenda.
quick. We have one new member, and we have a balance of 1,473,33.
Did you see 33?
33.
And how many members do we have in total, you know? About?
2 pages.
Two pages.
How much is membership?
Membership are $10 for a senior family, 15, and then individual that's not senior, 20. So that's coming due fairly soon. We're probably by June, I guess,
Right,
when we
June.
start.
The new member got his membership card or whatever?
I believe that she sent the letter and she has the call. She's very conscientious.
Yeah, tell them I have to come to a meeting to get a card.
You know, last time I'm going to ask this question.
Okay.
I know what the answer is. The report from the board commission.
The board commission, no, I don't have
Yeah, it's all right. That's a forget about it. What they did,
What's the report from the North Commission?
that's the one where they asked the Suffolk County residents to come up with ideas in case there's another tragedy.
Oh, emergency response?
That's not gonna happen.
that.
Okay.
The Moreland Commission.
And
Right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Moreland.
Here.
Rachel, anything to report?
Well, I went around and I put up some flyers, wall bounce, King Cullen, the library actually, over the Xerox machine, the town side. And that's about it. I can send Dan's link if you would like to everybody for the school board.
Oh, sure, that'd be good.
Can I say, I'm so impressed with Rachel.
Question about the budget. I was looking through something on their website. They seem to have a locksmith, 2 plumbers, 2 carpenters, and 1 mechanic, and on staff. Is there enough work? I mean, maybe the plumber knows, but why is there a full-time locksmith?
I come to a board meeting and ask those questions. I gotta get the answer from here, I don't know.
Yeah. They have a lot of help.
I got $10 million extra, so. And Dan foiled for the superintendent's secretary's contract. Her contract calls for $106,000 a year.
Oh, my God.
106, I
Should
think.
have raised, it wasn't.
Well, that's the old contract. And after 5 years, if she retires, she gets
Free of
health insurance for life.
Nice.
So I want to respond to Rachel about having people on staff versus not. They did that in New York City. They took away, I'm going to say physical therapists. I'm not physical therapists.
No, they decided for the early childhood intervention program that instead of having full-time staff to evaluate children and to give them the physical therapy they needed, they would contract it out. And they found after 5 years that they were now spending twice as much and getting half as much service.
So you have to be careful.
So you gotta be careful about contracting things out.
Because then, right.
But they still contract.
Where was
Major
it?
things.
In Nassau and Roswell, they had those lawyers, they had full contracts, and they were maybe making 3 phone calls a week.
Right.
And they were getting paid $175,000.
Yeah, when you contract things out, it can be bad too. It's all according to who's supervising.
They have a project called from Johnson Control, and it was.
Who's they?
The school board.
The school system has a contract
Commack.
that everything in the school system, in every building, will be looked at, and analyzed, what it needs, if it needs to be redone. And this was somewhere between like a $17 million contract that they signed up for. They get rebates from now PSE&G, LIPA, whoever's in charge, National Grid, whoever is the person who's the lead group. They have redone many of of the schools, and they pay them $1 million, $1.1 every once in a while. You see it, when you go into a meeting. So all of these nuts and bolts are being replaced and done, and boilers are being done, and lights are being changed. And so the regular staff is not doing that.
Yeah, but that must be beyond their scope.
Well, that's what they say, but then there's other contracts that go beyond the Johnson Control that involves something related to facilities, but not under the Johnson Control contract.
Okay, my sense is that we have to be very careful not to be so anti-everything.
No, it's not a case of being anti. It's a case of analyzing something.
Correct.
That is worth what you're paying. That's
Right.
bottom line.
New 5-year contract. So if a new school board comes in and wants to change superintendents, they will have to pay off a 5-year contract. Ooh, yes.
Well, this year they didn't do it because of the new members on the board.
They did not vote him a new, so he's down to 4 years?
Conceivably 4, he might be 4.5 at this point, but they didn't renew his contract.
Because there's no reason to give a superintendent a 5-year renewable contract.
If you recall, when we first heard from the Johnson Control, they had said, and this was a short period of time, it will be paying for itself.
Yes.
And they guaranteed it.
Guaranteed it.
Right.
But PSE&G is not giving all of these automatics anymore in the same range of $600,000.
No, I realize that.
To change courses.
With the new boiler, so it's supposed to be more effective, with the different type of lights, right, that are regular incandescent. Did that will work out that way, and it's going to pay for itself, or?
Well, I asked the facilities people, you can't change a light. I mean, you buy ladders to go up there to do something.
Well, they have these poles.
Right.
You know, they changed the whole light fixture. It's
Yeah,
a whole
the
energy
whole
thing.
LED.
Yeah, it's not just a light, it's a fixture.
But originally.
But lights go off now.
They claim that it's paying for itself between the state reimbursements and the energy savings it's saving. But I guess, that's what they claim. I mean, you have to go look at the books and stuff, but I guess the question would be to you, if I told you your LIPA bill is $200 a month, if you gave me $200 a month, I could make you use less electricity, would you do it? You would? You're going to use less electricity, but it's going to cost you the same $200 a month, so what was the rush to jump into it, you know what I mean?
Well, they're shutting off lights in rooms that are unoccupied.
Yeah, automatic shut off, that was all part of the agreement.
Yeah.
So some of it makes a lot of sense.
It's good to be green, but...
Reports of committees, Cannon Park. Dan, what's happening with that?
We had a meeting, Teresa, myself, and Adele, and I think Teresa is contacting the county and working on trying to get us permission. We're collectively working on design ideas, I guess, and once we get something, we'll have something more to add to it. Do you guys have anything
I had
to
spoken
add?
with Home Depot, and they said anytime that we're ready to hand in proposal, they will definitely help us.
Oh, good.
Almost definitely. And by giving supplies and perhaps even somebody help. But we have to do it in the next few weeks because he wants to.
This is great, yeah.
But we have to get approval, and before we get approval, we need a plan.
Right. Yeah, so hopefully this month we can get a plan together.
Right.
Good.
The preliminary plan is just like maintenance, basically to clean it up, put some mulch, plants, trim the bushes, rip out all the overgrown stuff, prune the trees.
Put up a sign about the Commack Community Association.
Right, we'll put some pretty flowers if we can do that.
Right.
Just as spiffy. We should do it before Memorial Day.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I just want to, since we're talking about the parade that I mentioned, I really think this year we should absolutely give them a wreath from us. Last year we did not do that.
We did last year.
Yes, we did. We did. We didn't present them during the parade.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, great.
Yes. I was there, I was the
Yeah.
last one to leave, I never saw anything given by us.
Yeah.
Didn't I go up and put a
Yes.
wreath on there?
We did, we
I
had
thought
it,
so.
we had it.
All right, they see.
I thought I went up and put it, didn't you buy the wreath?
I don't think
Yeah, Richard picked it up.
Right, the year before, not this year.
No, Jackie had.
We did the year before.
I think my.
Oh, what, we
The
didn't do
year
it this
before,
year?
no, last year.
Yeah, it was the year before.
Yeah, the year before, last year we did nothing, because I was the last one to leave, I kept waiting for her.
I think we didn't get it this
And
year.
it's not
That's right. Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, well,
So this year we have to do that.
so, well, that's more than $100, we have to take a vote to
Okay.
expend that. You wanna make a motion, Adele?
I'll make a motion that we buy a wreath.
Second, Pat, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's passed unanimously. Thank you, Adele. New business. Kings Park Industrial rezoning we just talked about, candidates for school board we talked about. Old and unfinished business. About the Marion Call Community Farm Preservation. If you remember, last month, the heirs asked for a extension of 30 days from the judge, and they were granted it. And this month, they asked for another extension of 30 days, and they were granted that. So we won't know anything until when then, April 15th, 13th?
April 25th about?
April 25th.
But still, Robert Hughes went to visit, right?
Oh, yes, thank you for reminding me. The school board asked the Huntington historian to visit Marion Call to look at the artifacts in the house. And they actually opened the safe. They found old stocks and bearer bonds. And Mr. Templini, who pushed the school board to do this, brought up the fact that those should be evaluated to see if they're worth anything. And Mr. Wunsch said he's not paying a penny to do that. If Mr. Templini wanted it done, he would do it pro bono. So, again, short-sighted. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of money
They
here.
just don't get old.
No kidding. And well, it's personalities, and you can't let that get in the way of business. So anyway, they also, Mr. Hughes said that they were going to take out some of the more important documents and put them in the school in an empty school classroom for safekeeping. And I reminded Mr. Hughes that 2 years ago we said we would do it for free, and volunteered to do it and do an inventory, and the school district said we couldn't.
But how are they going to take out what do they know what is important?
I have.
Because there's been no
Deborah,
identification
I
of any
agree
of
with
these.
you, but there's no reasoning with them, there's no discussion with them.
Unbelievable.
Right, that's what Mr. Templini suggested, that the inventory, they refused.
And we have somebody who is well-established, who would do it, whose records are
We'll do it for free.
from Huntington.
Right. And as the town line road truck traffic, as the town line road truck traffic, we just discussed that at the meeting, and it's interesting that Inspector Murphy said that he will enforce the Smithtown code for truck traffic, and we're going to keep to that. We're going to keep that. I'm going to send him an email next week asking him how many summonses were issued. And rezoning of businesses in industrial areas between Commack and Park we talked about. Any new business? Any member items? Reverend?
The goofy restaurant that they steamrolled our opposition to, it's sitting there empty, nobody wants it.
What a surprise.
It just amazes me that they did that.
Which place is that?
The new restaurant they built.
The Mayfair Shopping Center.
The new, next to the bagel
Supposed to be
place.
Chipotle.
That's what I thought too.
It's too small for
It's empty.
Oh, is it really? I've never been in a Chipotle.
They're open?
Never been.
No, nothing's open. They built it and nothing's in there. It's empty. The only thing I can guess is they did it when there was cheap money.
They did it when probably they had a tenant and the tenant backed out.
Right.
They also had a time.
I don't know.
I think on those,
And I knew it was bogus when we asked them, well, why do you need a liquor license? Well, who's coming in? We don't know, but we thought it'd be a good idea to have it. Then I knew that they were talking to their head.
The tournaments only run for so long,
Right.
and I think they were coming up.
It's gonna be a bookie
Deb?
I'm very interested in Hoyt Farm and how that, Mr. Vecchio said that in the covenant that when the Hoyts gave the farm to Smithtown, they said it couldn't be farmed or anything like that. And I'm looking at the documents. I went to the Long Island Records Archive Room in this town, Smithtown main branch. And they just had newspaper clippings. And in that, it doesn't have anything that would identify any of the information I want. So my next stop is the records, and I'm going to look at that and see if I can copy any kind of information that limits any activity on Hoyt Farm as suggested by Mr. Vecchio.
Thank you.
Listen for source.
Any other items? Reverend?
Also, there was mention earlier of the North Shore Farms new store on Vanderbilt.
Yes.
I was invited to the opening of the preview the night before. I was impressed. They claimed that they redid the whole interior. And it's sort of an upscale store on the border of Giuseppe or maybe Trader Joe's. It would be quite different than a Walbaum's. And as was mentioned, traffic may increase if it catches on. It's owned by a Greek family. I met a couple of Orthodox priests there. And it's a fifth outlet, so they're kind of a still family-oriented owned corporation.
Oh, that's good.
Not quite as huge as some.
They have 4 others on Long Island?
Yes. A couple in Nassau, I believe.
Good.
Wish them luck.
Anything else? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Adele? Adela? We are adjourned.
Well, the delegate-